Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. I have 10 minutes. Okay. We could just sing that again. I asked. That was a kind of a last-minute change. We had chosen a Luther Vandross song because you could hear Tony Glover singing Luther, right? But I remembered, I just wanted something that had more of a sacred feeling, and I chose that song for two reasons. One is that I got to sing that here on this stage from my dad the last time he was able to come here to this church before he died, and so that really, and he cried through the whole thing like a baby. It was so sweet. So I love that song. I have a connection with my dad. He's one of those angels that are with us today. But then also, I wanted us to remember, we can applaud my dad, absolutely. Love my father. Some of you have been asking, this is not my wedding ring, this is my dad's wedding ring that I've worn since my mom gave it to me the month after he died as my Christmas present that year. And my dad was a hands-on kind of a guy, you know. I remember him teaching me how to start the lawnmower, and I saw his hand with this ring. So I wear it to remember that he's got my back from the other side now. The other reason I wanted to use that song is that it's not about us that's doing this work. It's not about having the dynamic, charismatic, powerful leaders, although we have certainly had more than our share, Reverend Howard Caesar, in this movement. It is to God be the glory. There is a power of the divine that is moving through us. And so we want to always direct our attention to that infinite, immortal power of God that is always seeking to transform and reveal its goodness everywhere. And that includes within us as well. That power of God is in us. That is what unity means. We are one with God. We are one with each other. That's what it's about. And how beautiful it is on this day to celebrate our oneness, to celebrate our connection, our love for each other. I got the opportunity to go visit someone the other day, and she's not able to be here today, but I just wanted you to share this video. So I'm here with the amazing Hilda Templeton, and she is about to celebrate her 100th birthday. And so anything you'd want to say to the folks at Unity, Hilda?
I love you all, even though we don't see each other. We are one.
We are one. Happy birthday, Hilda. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Jan and Marion, thank you for sharing your mom with all of us. She is so precious to us. We just love her. I had the opportunity in my seminary training. Most of our classes were at my old church in Dallas, but we had an opportunity to come to Houston to take a class. This would have been in 2006, I think. Reverend Jesse Jennings, who is the senior minister at Creative Life Center in Spring, he's a great historian of our movement, the New Thought movement, and so he taught us a class called The Historical Background of New Thought. Great teacher, he's a great man, and just encyclopedic knowledge of our movement. He said, you know, we have a problem in the New Thought movement. Is that we have all these fabulous, wonderful, charismatic leaders, but we don't do succession in our churches very well. And he pointed to church after church that had a dynamic, powerful leader who was a great author and speaker. Thousands of people would come on a Sunday, and that minister either retired or died or left, and the church ceased to exist within a few years. He said, the great exception to this that I know of is Unity of Houston. He said, this church, yeah. And Jesse said that he got to Houston to take that church in Spring about the same time Howard came here, and he watched the way the succession went from Jane and Sig to Howard Caesar. And then I think the Paulsons knew from Rankin to them, and for Rankin to Wallet, all the way back to your mom and dad. There's a history here, and I'm so grateful that Howard was so conscious and loving of this community in the way that we handled the succession for me being senior minister. So what does this point to? It's just that, we're awful cute, I think, your senior ministers, and We have a lot to offer, but the success of this church is not in your leaders totally. It's in you. That there is a consciousness. There is what we would say today, there is institutional memory. There is institutional intelligence to know that this church really is its people. And there is a generosity, and there is a commitment in the group. And none of us were here 100 years ago. You know that, right? Yeah, so. But that consciousness of generosity and commitment continues. In the Hebrew Bible, in the book of 2 Kings, chapter 4, there's a beautiful old story. And I sometimes like to say with these old Bible stories, I don't know if any of this happened, but I know it's true. That a woman came to the prophet Elisha, and she said, "My husband has died. His creditors are coming to take my sons and to take them into slavery to pay our debt. What do I do?" And so you can imagine this spiritual leader. Howard knows, I know, that people come to us in desperate times. People come to us with such pain where their lives are falling apart. It happens. And I know my inclination is usually to say, what can I do? How can I help you? But that's not what the prophet Elisha said to this woman. She came to him saying, "I have this great need." And he said, "What do you have? Not what do you need? What do you have?" Can you imagine her shock, her feeling of grief around that? And she said, "I don't have anything except a small jar of oil." Eric Butterworth, one of the great unity ministers of all time, in his book, Spiritual Economics, he talks about this passage, and he says, many of us suffer from onlyness. I only have so much. I don't have enough to get what I need. I only have this. And the prophet there knew that the onlyness was the problem only in her mind, only in her consciousness. And so he told her to do a strange thing. He said, "Go borrow jars from all of your neighbors, as many as you can find. Go home, close the door, and pour from your small jar into these larger jars, and watch what happens." And you know the story. If you don't, it's a great story. That as long as there was a receptacle, as long as there was a space to receive the good of God, there was plenty of flow. And when all the jars were full, the flow ceased. The metaphysics of this is so simple. It's so plain to see that God is forever seeking to bless us, always pouring forth greater health, prosperity, well-being, joy, peace, light, love. That's who we are. It's given to us. But we can only receive that to which our consciousness is a match. We have to have the ability to receive that blessing, to live it, to experience it. It's a great story. That's what we're about, is teaching people how to widen their receivership, how to deepen their knowing of the good of God. And it transforms lives. I am one of those lives. So the characters in this story, it's the prophet, the widow, her sons, but there's another character that plays a big part that I've never, ever, ever heard a preacher talk about. The community that gave her those jars. I don't know if the church I grew up in is like, they put the names on the Tupperware underneath because they wanted those jars back. That Corningware was claimed, you know. There's a saying that a civilization can be judged by how they treat the widows and the orphans. Cindy Klein would also add the animals to that. In that time, there was no Social Security, there was no welfare state. That a woman who had lost her husband, had no means of income, she would have been on her own unless there was a community that valued her, that would do what it could do to support. And so there was no mass production of oil jars. I'm sure that they cared and were careful with them, but they gave what they had as well. She was the beneficiary not only of a miracle of God, but of the blessing of a generous community. And that's how that ties into our celebration today, that we are invited to be generous. I don't know what it is that you could give more of. checks are fine, but I'm not talking about that. I would not be a preacher and rule that one out. You know, that's got to be included in here. But that's not what I'm talking about. The people in this church who receive the greatest blessings are those who give the greatest gift. The ones who give of their time and their talent, their dedication, their love. Those are the ones who receive the greatest gift of this church, of spiritual community. So I'm inviting you to give more so you get more. And when more of us give more and get more, we can do more. We can do more good in this world. Our city, we got some problems. Have you noticed, Mayor Turner? There's a lot to do here, and he can't do it all. We need to help. There's stuff for us to do. I was sitting with Ken Porter, one of our members. He often just comes by the church office just to encourage me, and I so greatly appreciate it. He'll share with me a thought or an insight, and he reminded me that Martin Luther King Jr. did not stand on the mall in Washington, D.C. and say, "I have a plan." That was not the speech that was delivered. This morning, I titled the sermon, "We Carry This Dream." We carry this dream. And I did that before I talked to Ken, before I knew what I was going to talk about. But I do know that the dream of Unity of Houston is bigger than any of us can currently hold or see. It's not here yet. See, this is not the end. We're celebrating 100 years today. I think we're just getting started. How about you? Yeah. So we celebrate and honor all that came before, all those who gave so generously into this community. And we celebrate what is today. We are vibrant. We are alive. Have you noticed how diverse our church has become? What a blessing that is to our community. But we also want to take a moment to cast a vision for what does God want of us now? How can we be of service in the city of Houston, Texas in the 21st century? What is up for us to do? And I don't know. I don't know exactly what it is. I do know it has something to do with community. We did a survey right after I became senior minister at the end of 2017, early 2018. Thank you, Stephanie Foy, wherever you are, for your tremendous work on that. And 3 things emerged that were being asked for by this community. We wanted to have a greater emphasis on children and families. That's a church that knows it needs to be about the future. Amen? There was also a request that we have a greater emphasis on our unity teachings, the essential teachings that make us unity. That's a church that knows who it is and wants to be in that identity of life-transforming teachings. And third, there was a request that we create the means to have a greater experience of connection and belonging. And that's what we're about. We're finding ways. Our spirit group, small group ministry is just bursting. We were going to scale it back for this most recent rollout. We thought, well, we'll get maybe 10 groups, and we had over 20. You're ready for it. I was sitting last week with a man. He and his wife are going through just a devastating health challenge, and longtime members here, and he shared with me with tears in his eyes that he and his wife decided to tell their group what they're going through, and people they didn't even know before they had started a few weeks earlier. And the love, the support that came as that group put their arms around them, walking them through this difficult time. That is a generous community, giving of their love, their time, their energy. We got something happening here. You know, Reverend Howard Caesar has the best saying. You'll probably know what it is, right? Life is meant to be good. Oh, I wish I had one like that. I'm going to work on it. But my very first Sunday as your senior minister, it just came out of me. I said, something is happening here. And I wasn't lying. I can feel there's something that is happening here. Last week, I taught a workshop at the Pyramid with my friend Maggie. And at the end of that workshop, people had written permission slips for themselves. I, Michael Gott, do hereby give Michael permission to, and then they would just share what it was they wanted to take the courage and step into their lives in a greater way. And there were tears in my eyes as I watched. By number 50 or so, I said, this is what's happening here. Individuals are getting turned on, tuned up, ready to give their gift to change our world. It's good. I think my 10 minutes are up. I just want you to know that none of us does it alone. We all stand on the shoulders of the great ones before, and we hold each other up. When I am down and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burden be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come to sit a while with me.
You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
There is no light without this hunger. Each restless heart beats so imperfectly. But when you come and I am filled with wonder, sometimes I think I glimpse eternity. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
You raise me up to more than I can
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.